Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk about Ardiden's Pickle Lake Gold Project in Ontario, Canada. And really exciting to hear Nick's story there. We hope to be talking along similar lines in the not too distant future when we start building bigger resources. The first slide I wanted to throw up was really just to quickly jump to the point of three good reasons to invest in Ardiden. Ardiden, as you can see there in the graph, has a vast exploration holding in northwest Ontario. All of the orange tenements you can see on the map there are Ardiden's tenements. And on those tenements, we have an existing JORC resource of 110,000 ounces at 4.3 grams per tonne at Kasagiminnis, which is the red diamond sort of in the middle of the diagram there. And we also have an exploration target there that we've worked on somewhere between 0.5 to 1.2 million ounces just at that one dot. So that's one deposit that we've got JORC resources on that is just one of 18 different prospects and deposits that I'll talk about further. We also have about 100,000 ounces, sorry, a bit quick for me there, out at Dorothy, Dobie, which you can see up in the top left, which is a brownfields project alongside Barrick's Gold and Patricia gold mine. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the gold mines that have existed in the Pickle Lake region over the last decades and the activity in the area. On that slide at the moment, you can see two really major companies working in the area. One is obviously Ardiden doing the exploration work. And I think that the investors that we spoke to recently when we did a cap raise are really happy that people are really dedicating some money and some resources to this area. A lot of people have thought that it's been overlooked for a long time. Evolution, as most people would know, have picked up most of the Red Lake operations, about 150 k's to the left there, to our west. And in the Pickle Lake region, it's really Orteco, the Bellevue guys, which are really going hard at the Pickle Crow historical mine there. So you've got an Australian junior developing mine resources around an existing mine, and you've got Ardiden with a great growth potential in the region. Next slide, please. That's a quick picture. As Nick mentioned, we've had a pretty good share price rise of the recent few weeks and months. But behind that, as with any story, there's a lot of hard work. So when I first joined May last year, we were sitting around 0.2, 0.3. So we've brought some joy to existing shareholders, and we believe there's a lot left to go in the story here. We're really just aggregating a gold exploration portfolio of value that is going to be able to deliver multi-million ounce deposits and really have the size and magnitude that true investors want in the long term. We've got a current share price around 1.3, 1.4, which gives us a market cap around 30 million. And our recent cap raise has topped up our cash balance to just over 5 million. So a really good position to be in to launch some drilling, which I can talk about in the next few slides. We've also got some international and domestic institutions now in our holding, 1832 being the most prominent with a cornerstone investment of 8.2. Next slide. A pretty small board, that's myself there along with our chairman Neil Hackett and Pauline Gately, our independent non-exec. And perhaps more importantly right at the moment is our exploration manager in Thunder Bay, Dan Grabiak, who's a very experienced exploration geologist, and he's working hard at the moment to get our drill rigs mobilised and all of our permitting through the various gates that you have in Canada. Next slide. That little map there shows sort of the Aussie invasion, which is a kind invasion or a collaboration between like-minded people, we think. Obviously, a lot of the producers have seen assets in North America, from Alaska with Northern Star, right through to Newcrest and St Barbara as well. And now the exploration companies are sort of picking up assets as well, which are a really good value proposition. Not to say Australia isn't, but there's some really good opportunities there. Ardiden has been in Ontario for quite a few years. We've got lithium assets in there, which will lead well into the next presentation, more on lithium. We parked up our lithium assets for the time being. They're not costing us anything. And they're you can see 3 blue dots there in Ontario. They're our projects, lithium, but right in the middle, again, that red diamond is our Pickle Lake Gold Project north of Thunder Bay in northwest Ontario. Next slide. That's a picture of the sort of greenstone belts, which unlike Western Australia, don't run north-south, they run east-west. So we're in the Uchi geological subprovince, which shares the sort of endowment, mineral endowment with Red Lake, which is quite well known. The other main area in Ontario for mining is the Timmins, Kirkland Lake, Sudbury area, more in the east. But in Ontario, it's a very mining proactive province. There's 20 operating mines there, and they produce 2 to 3 million ounces of gold per year. So our holdings in there include 664 square kilometres of gold tenure, and we also have just over 200 kilometres squared of lithium assets as well in Ontario. Next slide. That's a geological overlay of that Uchi greenstone belt that I talked about. Very similar, it's the same age as the West Australian Archean greenstone system. So for us as geologists, it's not easy to understand, but it's very comparable with our exploration techniques and the way we approach a systematic exploration. In grey there, you can see Ardiden's tenure holding. It's quite a vast, contiguous tenement land package, and that's important for a number of reasons. And on the left, you can see the gold production, gold bubble around Red Lake, which is a very active and currently operating, highly profitable gold mining region. There's no active gold mines actually operating in Pickle Lake. The most recent was Golden Patricia, which is a brownfields, we have brownfields prospects either side of that gold mine, and that was last operated in about 1998. So as I said before, a lot of investors are really happy that this area is now being looked at again. And with Orteco and us very active in the region, we think there's a good synergy there between a mine development and exploration acreage on the outskirts of that. Next slide. So just to run through those underground gold mines which were operated in Pickle Lake, the graphic on the right there shows the 4 underground mines that were at Pickle Lake. It's Donna Lake, Golden Patricia, Pickle Crow, and Central Patricia. So Orteco are doing the earn-in on the Pickle Crow mine, which went to just over 1 kilometre depth. Central Patricia went just a little bit deeper than that, so that was 1.2 kilometres. And on the far right, I've shown what's happening in Red Lake at the moment. That's the Koshinor mine, which is currently being developed actively to 2 kilometres. So the gold price is really driving these deep, high-grade lode systems to amazing depths once you've established a mining operation. On the far left is our Kasagiminnis flagship deposit. And what I'm trying to illustrate there is at the moment, even though we've only got 110,000 ounces at 4.3 grams, that's only down to about 250 metres. Our exploration target is reasonably conservative to 500 metres, where we think we've got up to 1.2 million ounces in the ground. And Kasagiminnis is a greenfields untouched deposit. So it's 100% Ardiden, and it's all there in the ground to be discovered. But the real potential there probably is at depth. If these mineralised systems continue as the mines have, down to 500, 800 kilometre, then we've really got one big project just in Kasagiminnis itself. Next slide. That's a plan view again of our holdings across Pickle Lake, and that's where we've got our 18 different prospects and deposits. Kasagiminnis again is in the middle there in the dark purple. And I guess you can see the scale. From left to right there, you're talking about 100 kilometres east-west, and our holding spread sort of 35 to 40 kilometres north-south. So a massive package which is connected. All of our tenements are connected. But really what I've been doing is staking all the greenstone prospective area into one holding. Previously, Canadians have had bits and pieces of these prospects and done some work on them, which we're working through. But Kasagiminnis is a classic starting point. It's close to our main road. It's in what we call our eastern hub. But the Dorothy, Dobie and the trend around Golden Patricia is probably really what's got the institutions excited because of another deposit in the area at Great Bear Resources, which I'll talk about. So all of those holdings there are 100% Ardiden, except for what's in the middle there called the New Patricia Prospect, which is an earn-in arrangement, which we have, quite a cheap one, with really well-credentialed people in Xero. So that's where we've got our air mag being flown at the end of this month. So we've got plenty of areas to work on if we're held up with drilling, which is what's currently is the case because of COVID. Next slide, please. And as I said, we're breaking this up into Eastern Hub, which we can work from the Pickle Lake town, from the main road, reasonable access. And the Western and Southern Hubs are really, the Western Hub is predominantly a brownfields, really exciting area. And the Southern Hub is more greenfields, upside potential in that area, which hasn't really been worked. So we've got those sort of options and a lot of areas to work on as we move into the area and get better established. Next slide. So just coming back to Kasagiminnis and our drill program, we recently put out a release as to why we've been delayed for a few weeks, and that's, I think, reasonably well explained in the press release. It is because of COVID and the measures which are in play there at the moment in Canada. First Nations are particularly vulnerable. The Mines Department has put a bit of a hold on refreshing exploration permits, so we're in the queue there. We hope that they start alphabetically with moving them through, because being Ardiden obviously we're at the front of that queue, and Dan Graby and our people on the ground in Thunder Bay are actively working to get us on the ground as quickly as possible. We've got drill rigs ready to roll once we're permitted. So the JORC resource in the middle there with the yellow bar shows you where we've got our existing JORC resource, which is quite a small section of quite a mineralised zone there. What we're going to do in summer is drill underneath that JORC resource. Now that we're better funded, we're going to do some deep holes to test that at depth. And we're also going to drill to the west, where we think previous drilling has missed an offset structurally. But really the big campaign is going to be in winter, out on what is a lake, a shallow lake. Once that's frozen up and we can get rigs out easily onto the lake there to drill underneath, which is common practice in these parts of the world. Next slide. This is a long section looking north through the same Kasagiminnis deposit. Again, sort of showing our summer drilling on the left there with the green blob and the blue blob, trying to expand our JORC resource from 110,000 ounces, which is a small part of it, to the west and at depth. And in the bottom right there, we're also showing that phase 3 drilling. And you can hardly see it, but on top of that phase 3 drilling is a blue line, which represents the lake. The lake is about 6 feet deep. It's quite easy to get through. And this is an underground, deep, mineralised high-grade system. So we're not looking at open pit excavation that will interrupt water flow. We're looking at deep drilling under there during the winter. Any drilling that we can't complete this summer will carry over into a bigger winter campaign. Last year at Pickle Lake, we hoped to get on the lake during winter. We didn't then have the MOU with the Mishkigoggaman. We now have that. So we're in a much better position to launch a big winter campaign. Next slide. A bit of a technical slide there for the buffs, but what I'm trying to show there with the blue rectangle in the middle is where we're drilling at Cass. It's quite a small part of a broader zone, and we've identified about 20 mineralisation targets just on Cass itself. I'll jump to we're working on that northern, just come back one if you can. We're working on the northern part of what is basically a dilation zone. What we do want to follow up in summer is a hit down at number 21 there, which is a very teasing 21 gram intersection over 4 metres, which has never been followed up. So we think there may well be a parallel zone there just at Cass. Okay, let's jump to the next slide. Everyone wants to see what are your best intersections. So what I've done there is on the right, just given a full list of all of our highest intersections, which run from bonanza grade over short intervals, 400 grams per tonne, right through to broader zones, which are more interesting from a mining point of view, put in context with the prospects. So that's our western hub, the brownfields around Dorothy, Dobie. Next slide. Again, that's a geophysical overlay, just showing again, what's really important there in that Dorothy Dobie zone is what we call that beerhead deformation zone. Having a really significant structure is really important to exploration, target and modelling. This is very similar to the situation which is happening at Great Bear Resources at their Dixie project, about 150 k's to our left. And so it's that system there that we really want to get on the ground after Cass and start some evaluation drilling through that area, because nobody's ever put that whole structure together before. We've got 30 to 40 k's of continuous mineralisation through there, and a historic mine which had 3 kilometres of underground development and poured out 600,000 ounces at 15 grams. So there's a pretty exciting prospect along the Dorothy Dobie trend, which runs into New Patricia and Esker. So there's a lot to do with there, and we're really excited about the prospects of getting on the ground and getting going there. Next slide. That's our news flow, which we've updated this week. So we hope shortly to announce mobilisation of drill rigs to Cass. We're running a detail, low level, very close to treetop airborne geophysics program over the New Patricia prospect, so that we can better target our drilling for next year at New Patricia. When the place opens up, we'll be conducting site visits and expanding our drill targeting out into other areas. So we hope to be doing a JORC resource update in the December quarter, and then in March we'll be providing news flow on a winter drill campaign, which will be much more substantial. I think that's about it, Tim. If we're getting the wind up on time, it's thanks for your time. We hope you got a bit of a quick picture over the Pickle Lake project and understand why an ASX junior is in Ontario.
Thanks, Rob. Time for probably one or two questions. I know some astute investors are quite excited about Ardiden. So with the capital you raised probably a couple of weeks back, if not a little bit longer, is the plan to use that capital to drill deeper? You showed that chart with some depth there. Is that part of the plan?
Yeah, it's a case of spreading ourselves carefully at depth and along strike. We'd like to, you get a few eggs in the basket. There's a South Limb prospects, which I didn't even mention, which is probably an all year round target next to the Donna Lake. So yes, now we're a bit better funded. We've got the ability to drill some sort of 4, 5, 6 plus 100-metre holes under the JORC resource to test, does this thing continue like every other deposit in the area? That won't necessarily add to the resource, but it'll demonstrate the depth potential, as well as getting to the other prospects, so that if one doesn't stack up or whatever, you've got another one, another string to your bow. With Orteco probably getting a mine near mine development, you only need quite small satellite projects in this area to feed into those sort of places. So the economics about what's true value for investors, rather than just sit on one deposit and drill it for infinitum. It's really important for us to get across the whole package and do systematic exploration from geophysics, geochem, test drilling, as well as resource drilling, which is going to build the value into the company and give shareholder return.
And just one more question in regards to timeline. How are you impacted by the weather, and how are you impacted by COVID?
Well, COVID is the immediate impact. Toronto is still getting 100 cases a day. They're not out of the woods yet, but things are starting to free up. So COVID is obviously the major concern in this region, and we're lucky that we've got people on the ground there helping that are based there. In terms of the capital and the way we manage our expansion, we're going to do that systematically and sort of approach these things as a step-by-step basis. If CAS turns out to be a real humdinger at depth, we can throw a lot more resources at that and resource some of the other areas as well. South Limb, as I said, there's now an access road in there year round, so we could potentially get into South Limb, and that's right next to Donna Lake, and work that year round. Traditionally, people have done summer campaigns and winter campaigns. It's when those fringe seasons either side, which are a bit difficult. So CAS, for the time being, will be a summer and a winter campaign. But during the winter times, we're trying to build an all year access road into there so that we can work it year round if it really stacks up.